Good afternoon, Year 11. This video is to support what we will be doing in our virtual lesson as well. I will be going through the paper and telling you how to answer it, but I thought it would be also useful for you to have a look at the mark scheme so that you can see the difference. Now, this is what the front of your exam paper will look like. This is what the front of your mock exam paper will look like. Your actual exam paper will have these bits filled in. If I can get my selector on, let me choose my trusted green lightsaber today. So your actual exam paper will have these bits filled in, okay? I've taken them out because this is a mishmash of previous past papers. It is not just one past paper. And I will tell you now that the past paper mark scheme that we are about to look at is from November 2020. You are not, for your mock exam, sitting the November 2020 exam. You also have some bits here filled in, giving you timings, etc. But as this one, okay, and I apologise for the fact that it's a bit of a blurry image, because this one was put together by myself, it has been edited. Now, please, whatever you're filling in an exam paper, the first thing you have to do is read it properly. Your surname goes here. Your other name or other names, if you have them, go here. So you put your last name, your surname in here, and your first name here. You will know the centre number, and you will know your individual candidate numbers too. Not massively important for the mock, but they will most definitely help you in the actual exam. You'll get used to writing those too. I have also had somebody leave this bit blank and forgot to fill in the front page when asked. Their exam paper was not therefore submitted straight away and led to a massive panic when they were worried they wouldn't get a mark because they came to the invigilator at the end of the exam after all the exam papers had been collected in and said, I didn't fill my name in. If you don't want that to happen and you don't want your marks to go in the bin, fill that bit in. It is quite important. Yours will have some information here on times and dates, etc. And it will have some information here on total marks, etc. Okay, and timings for the booklet here. So if we have a look then at the next page, if I stop this one. So like I said, it is a mark scheme. So this isn't what your question paper will look like. We will look at that tomorrow. Okay, so we will look at that, the actual question paper tomorrow. But for now, this is what the mark scheme looks like. So in November 2020, the first question was explain 2 consequences of the collapse of the Soviet Union. This is what they're looking for. This is what the examiner is looking for. And you will see it is marked separately. So you have to do 2 consequences. Each one is marked separately. So you are able to get 4 marks on one and then 0 marks on the other, or 1 mark on each, or however combination they are marked separately. And it's explained 2 consequences of the collapse of the Soviet Union. And as I said, we are focusing on the mark scheme here. So if all you make is a simple or generalized comment about an impact or a consequence or a result of something, that is what they are looking for first. But if it's simple, so for example, the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, that is never going to get any higher than 1 mark. If you make a list of all the consequences, just bullet point them one after the other, you are never going to get any higher than 2 marks maximum. What they are also looking for then is developed supporting evidence. You'll see the difference between A01 here on the mark scheme and A01 here on the mark scheme. Okay, so just a very simple, limited statement with very, very limited detail here will not get you any higher than 2 marks. Being able to develop that impact and with a supporting a slight explanation. Now, to explain something, you need to use the word because or use your connectives. You know that already. So therefore, to get your 4 marks, that is what you are looking to do. You are analysing to explain a consequence. So you are saying that the collapse of the Soviet Union led to this, because of this, 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 and this. And that is where you put in your supporting detailed information. So as I will say in our actual lesson, explaining two consequences of something basically means give two impacts of, or two results of, the collapse of the Soviet Union in this case. So to give you a rough guide on this, if your target is a 4 for a 4-mark question like this, you need a minimum of 2 marks. To get a 6 as well on a 4-mark question, you're expected to get the minimum of 2 marks. To get an 8 on this question, you are expected to get a minimum of 3 marks. So that will give you some idea on a 4-mark question what you need to be aiming. So this basically just sets out some content that you might want to talk about in question 1 for the second half of question 1. Okay, so our narrative account question. Okay, I will be explaining in the lesson again what it actually means, how to answer it, etc. But I thought it would be useful again to focus on the mark scheme. In this case, it's analysing the key events of the Cuban Missile Crisis. This is not going to be the question in your mock, but it is an analytical narrative. You're looking at, therefore, causation, consequence, and changes. You are looking at telling a story, but analysing as you go along. Same again then. For 1 to 2 marks, all you're providing is a very, very limited amount of analysis first. They're always looking for AO2 first, so they are looking for your connectives first. Then they are looking for your supporting evidence. They are then looking for, if you notice here, a maximum of 4 marks for answers that do not go beyond the stimulus material. So if all you write about are these 2 things here, you are not going to go any higher than 4. So to get this sort of level 2, 3 to 5 marks here, you need to start showing some organisation. It is more than a bullet pointed list. You are looking at a beginning, a middle and an end. How the Cuban Missile Crisis started, how and why it developed, and what consequences or impact it had on superpower relations. So again, if you notice, they're looking for AO2 first. So they are looking for your ability to organise and analyse using your connectives, and then the amount of detailed supporting evidence. So if you show some knowledge and understanding of how events link together, you show some flow, that is what will get you between 3 and 5 marks. 6 to 8 marks, well, it's pretty obvious. You cannot access this level 6 to 8 marks, so level 3, 6 to 8 marks, if you do not include evidence of your own. And as we will talk about in the lesson, you need to be aiming for between 3 and 4 pieces of detailed evidence to show the story. So if this is a narrative account given, that means you are telling the story. You are clearly sequencing events. You are clearly showing how they link together and how they led to an impact or an outcome. Okay, that could be something on superpower relations. It could be something to do with Cuba. It could be something to do with America. It could be linking to how it lessens it lessens tensions in superpower relations because it led to the hotline, etc. But you are clearly analysing and linking in a logical structure for a level 3, 6 to 8 marks. This is where the detail is important. Okay, you don't just state the 2 American presidents. So in this one, you just say the American and the Russian presidents fell out. You'd say who they are here. You will say their first names. You'll say their surnames. You will give the actual specific dates. You will know that something happened in, say, the start of the 13 days and when it was by day 6, what was happening, etc. You'll know when the boundary was set up around Cuba. That sort of detail is massively important. Now, for an 8-mark question like this, if your target is a 4, you are looking for 3 marks. So this is what you have to be aiming for if your target is a 4. If your target is a 6, you are aiming for 5 marks. If your target is an 8, the minimum you are expected to get, if you're in line for that 8, is 6 marks on this question. So again, indicative content basically just means relevant points that you could talk about and explain. So these are the sorts of things that the examiner is looking forward to you knowing, you putting forward, you developing. But these sentences, as they are written here, are in nowhere near enough detailed evidence. You have to expand on them further. So if your target is 6, for example, for a 6 and above, you should know who XCOM is. You should be able to give an example of who was a member of XCOM, etc. These bullet points are just certain things that the examiner will be looking for to show your knowledge and understanding. You then have to develop them further. So develop your AO1 further by adding in more detail. And it's how you coherently structure it into a P paragraph or into your narrative that makes you push further. Okay? So in this case, as it is the narrative, the analytical narrative question, it is how well you tell the story. If this happens, leads to this, use your connectives, put it all together. So your final question, you have to choose 2 of these 3 bullet points. So the same thing again, you have to choose either the importance of the formation of NATO in 1949 for the development of the Cold War, the importance of the summit meetings, 59 to 61, for relations between East and West. So East, you should know that as well, Russia, West, America, okay, or the importance of the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan for superpower relations, okay. Now, this question is very much like question 1. You have to explain 2, but whereas it was in question 1, explain 2 consequences of, in this you're already given the consequence. So explain the importance of the formation of NATO in the consequence of superpower relations. What did the formation of NATO do for developing the Cold War? Did it make things better? Did it make things worse? What happened? How? Why? Again, the importance of the summit meetings. So the importance of the meetings between East and West, so Russia and America, where they were, what impact did they have on tensions on the Cold War? Did they make it better? Did they make it worse? Etc. And then the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, 1979. Well, that already should tell you that it's towards the end of the Cold War. If anything, you could say that is the start of the Second Cold War and what ultimately leads to the collapse of the Soviet Union. But what impact does that Soviet invasion of Afghanistan have on superpower relations? So once again, level 1, level 2, level 3. These are not grades, these are level boundaries. So 1 to 2 marks, same thing again, bullet pointed list, very little information going in. 3 to 5, same thing. It's all about trying to explain, trying to analyze, trying to show how something is important, okay? And then your final one, your 6 to 8 marks, same thing again. It's your level of showing coherent, logically structured. It is, for this one, as you will find out in the lesson, a P paragraph. So because it is a P paragraph, you need to be able to point, evidence, explain, and then link back to the question. So point, well, what was NATO, for example? What does it stand for? Evidence, well, what's it doing during the Cold War? When was it developed? How was it developed? Who was it between? What happened about it? Explain its impact on the Cold War. Did it improve relationships between America and Russia? Did it make them worse? And then link directly back to the question. Give me some sort of statement, overall conclusion to directly link back to the question on how important it is. Now, whichever one of these bullet points you choose, you will be marked separately. Once again, they are looking for AO2 before they are looking for AO1. And again, because this is an 8 marker, the same thing as pies as with the analytical narrative question. If you're aiming for a 4 on an 8 mark question, your minimum should be 3 marks. If you're aiming for a 6, your minimum should be 5 marks. If you're aiming for an 8, your minimum that you are aiming for in this question is 6 marks. So finally, if you chose the last 2 bullet points, this is the indicative content guidance. So this is again what the examiner will be looking for in nowhere near enough detail in terms of the evidence you should have in your P paragraph. So this is the evidence bit. You should be able to develop it further, especially if your target is grade 5 and above. You should be able to develop all of this further. You should be able to then coherently put it into and explain bit of what impact it has on the superpower relations